They'll threaten my mom with lawsuits or threaten to go to the media or threaten to go to politicians to make a big scene out of this. And so as a 5-year-old growing up, and I say to my mom, I want to be an attorney to protect you.
This is Unlawful. Welcome to Unlawful. As always, I'm Brandon Renken, and with me today is Jimmy Lai. How are you doing, Jimmy?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, Jimmy, you're one of my favorite types of conversation because you're a new person who I know very little about other than what I see online. So why don't you tell me, who are you? What are you doing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name's Jimmy Lai. I'm originally from Taiwan, and then I came to the U.S. to do my undergrad degree in Oklahoma back in 2012, and pretty much just stayed in Oklahoma after undergrad, went through 1 year of work experience, and then decided to go to law school.
Just out of curiosity, were you by yourself in Oklahoma, or did family come? Or
No, my younger sister did. So
Gotcha.
what happened was, actually for my high school, I was a high school exchange student in Japan, Germany, and England. So my sophomore year in Japan, my junior year in Germany, my senior year in England, I did my A-levels there. My sister did the same thing. Her first year, she was in Quebec. Second year, she was in France. And the third year was in Norman, Oklahoma. And
Nice.
that's how we ended up there. Even though she was 2 years younger than me, but we started college at the same time. Because back at that time, as a Taiwanese person, I had to serve in the military, but I didn't have to serve. What happened there was, because originally I thought my feet was flat, but then they told me, no, your foot isn't flat enough, but you are indeed fat enough. So I ended up being, because I was too fat, overweight, and they put a stamp on my passport saying, you're forever exempted from service. So that was how I got out of service, was being too fat. And so the point was, she did the same thing. Her host family really liked her and said, you and your brother can stay with us for free. We'll
Wow.
take care of you, but you can go to school in Norman, University of Oklahoma.
Sure.
But then we looked at the tuition of University of Oklahoma, and then we looked at the tuition of another college, a smaller local college called University of Central Oklahoma, about 50 minutes north of Norman.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, 2 for the price of 1, send us both to a smaller college.
Nice.
And we ended up renting elsewhere in a different city. But yeah, that was the reason why we ended up in Oklahoma, was because my host family really liked my sister. And my parents thought, yeah, if there's someone that can at least take care of us if anything happens, there's at least some sort of friends in Oklahoma.
No, that's awesome. I haven't had any experience quite like that, but I've definitely studied abroad, and there, regardless of how strong your internal fortitude is, there are moments where you just feel so alone. So I'm sure that was a great experience.
Where did you study abroad?
In college, I studied in Madrid, and in law school, I did a semester in London.
Nice.
Yeah, they were both really, like, London for me was a no-brainer because that's the only time anybody can afford to live in London.
Yeah.
But I also really love my time in Madrid too. Every student I meet, I tell them, like, the more time you can spend abroad, not really as a tourist, but just as a student of the environment. And you know this better than anyone based on your experience, but it's really an incredible thing. But no matter how much you're enjoying it, it's funny. When I was in Madrid, I went to university at a place called Complutense, and it was right at a main train stop. And in that train stop, there was a Dunkin' Donuts. I was an undergrad at Harvard in Boston. That was very much like when I needed a second of home, I would go to Dunkin' Donuts. So that was, I didn't have my sister there, but that was a nice thing.
Oh, that's nice.
So did you stay in Oklahoma for law school?
Yeah. After graduating from college, my undergrad was actually marketing. And that's the first taste of the difficulties I faced throughout my journey, was being from Taiwan, being an international student. So we have certain restrictions. After university, there's something called the OPT. We were able to work without additional authorization. So that allowed us to work for a year. And most of the jobs that I could apply for were mostly insurance sales, car sales, or financial advisor work for marketing. And so I ended up choosing to become a car salesman. And first day on the job, I knew I needed to go to law school. That's how I ended up, okay. And then the only law school
What's crazy is I joke about how being a lawyer is ultimately a sales profession. So you went into a sales profession, jumped out of it to go to law school, then to come back to a sales profession.
Right. Yeah. And essentially at that time when I took that job as a car salesman, I was hooked because when I went to a career fair and they said, what was my goal out of college? Well, I'd like to make 6 figures.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, you can do that in the car business. So I went to the interview. The GM showed me his first year pay stub. It was $75,000. His first year was $75,000. And then second year, you can make 6 figures. Okay, I'm sold. So
Yeah.
that was the reason. And the other reason was I'm an introvert. So
Yeah.
actually, I'm so much so that with growing up, if I see, let's say if I know you and you're in aisle 2 and I need something from aisle 2, I'll wait until you leave or try to sneak behind and grab myself. That's so how much of an introvert I was that I didn't want to say hello. I'd rather just grab my stuff and go. I don't want to chit chat. I don't want to talk about the weather. I grab my stuff and leave without having to say hello. So that was my personality, how shy I was. So when I took that job, my mom asked me, like, you have a college degree. Why are you selling cars? And I figured I need to challenge my introverted self, be a little bit more extroverted. And also, I recognize that anything in life is pretty much sales. You're selling yourself to an employer. You're selling yourself to a potential client. Everything you're doing, you're selling. Even applying to law school, I'm selling myself to law school to enroll me. So I figured that it would be a necessary skill that I can learn.
So when did you decide to transition back into being a student and go back to law school?
So pretty much early on, when I asked, the job wasn't doing H-1B sponsorship for sales position. I can easily find any American to do it. So there was no need to do a sponsorship. And I asked, okay, what if I excelled and became salesman of the month for a long time? If I keep achieving great goals, would I still be able to get a sponsorship? And they said no. So I thought, okay, then maybe I should go to law school and maybe my luck would change and be able to find an employer that's willing to sponsor an attorney. Also, like a tiny bit, like going back in time, I also wanted to become an attorney. Growing up as a 5-year-old, my parents have their own business. And so my mom was a principal of a language school / kindergarten. And her style of education is either you get on board or she'll be happily refund you your money and tell you to go on your way. It's private school. So you can imagine the parents.
Right.
The parents are mostly doctors, lawyers, business owners, politicians. So when my mom would do that, their egos would be hurt. They're like, how dare you tell my kids not to come to your school anymore? And how dare you refund me money? So they'll threaten my mom with lawsuits or threatened to go to the media or threatened to go to politicians to make a big scene out of this. And so as a 5-year-old growing up, and I said to my mom, I want to be an attorney to protect you. So that was my initial thought. And then throughout from that to being a car salesman, I gave up that law school dream. I told myself, doubted myself. What if I spent all that time going to undergrad and then going to law school and then not passing the bar exam?
Sure.
Like that, all the investment would be lost. So I talked myself out of it. So I actually didn't prepare for LSAT until I was working a full-time job selling cars.
So where'd you end up going back to law school?
This time, it was University of Oklahoma for law school. Yeah, back to Norman. Yes.
It's funny because we often, in these conversations with people, we often fast forward through law school. But what happened in law school? You were an introvert, and yet your first job was selling cars. So you have the ability to maintain an eye on challenging yourself and stuff like that. Did you do that in law school as well?
Yeah. So I was about to say, I went to try to become more extroverted, which I did selling cars. And then law school immediately took me back to being an introvert.